Ladies and gentlemen, remember 2024, like the first half of 2024. Remember how much you could sell Dreugh Wax for? 20,000 gold apiece. And then, over the year, this price basically crashed in half. And yeah, frankly, the price was never really sustainable in the long term. But you know, the prices were kind of stable for a few months, but in the last month, the prices in the economy of ESO have been gone to crap. Look how they massacred our boy Dreugh Wax. 9.7k. Just a few weeks ago, it was on 12k. Let's look at tempering alloy as well. 3.2k. A few weeks ago, it was like 4.5k. This is all EU prices, by the way. We'll talk about NA in a bit. Usually NA is just a bit pricier in general. So basically, the whole economy has shifted downwards. It essentially deflated, right? And I have asked you guys if you have noticed that. And there was one of you who responded with, well, surely it must be the new surveys. And I find that very compelling. So today we're going to try to figure out why the economy crashed, what exactly happened, and in a future video, I would like to embark on a journey on what we can do, or what ZeniMax rather can do, to fix this. So let's start from the beginning, shall we? In one of the recent updates, I think it was update 45 or so, I don't know. We got these surveys that are not bound. So previously you just got a random survey for blacksmithing, alchemy and whatever, and they were bound and it was random where it is, right? And nowadays you get unidentified survey reports, and these you can just sell. Once you click one of those or activate one of those, they become one of the ones that you are already aware of. And that is a big thing. Because the matter of fact is that I personally saw screenshots of people who had surveys in their bank in stacks of, in the 3-digit range, right? So that there were people who had hundreds, thousands even of surveys in their inventory that they did not want to do. And now, that's the theory, since nobody's getting the old ones anymore and just the new ones, that means the people who never bothered with doing the surveys now have the possibility to sell them to people who are willing to buy and complete them. So that means that there is a big chunk of surveys in the economy that are not in banks anymore, but rather do get completed, which in turn leads to a higher amount of alloys, which is tempering alloy, Dreugh Wax, resin, whatever. Resin, I think resin, right? Whatever. And that naturally means when there's more things in the market, the price goes down. So that's the theory, right? So that's the theory. But in order to prove this, in order to prove that this is the case, we have to look at the Tamriel Trade Center historical data. Alrighty, here we are in the Tamriel Trade Center. I have prepared a few tabs so we can actually check if this hypothesis is true. So let's first have a look at tempering alloy first. So you can see right now, this is EU prices. The suggested price is 2.9k to 3.7k. So let's have a look at the price development. This is the price development from July 2025 up until to today. And as you can see, all the graphs are going down. So as I said before, 4.7, well, I didn't technically say that, but it was pricier just a few months ago. And you can see it's all downhill. There's zero recovery, and especially within the last few, or basically the last month, you can see how the price has dropped from September 22nd from 4.2k to today of 3.7k. So that's a 500 gold loss. That's roughly like 15% or so. So in order to prove that the surveys are at fault, we also have to have a look at the sale data. So don't get overwhelmed with this data. I'm going to explain it to you. It's very simple, right? So we once again have July to today. And as we can see here, we have listings and we have sales, this word. So if we have a look at like early July, we had 90,000 listings and almost 60,000 sales. Now we have 93,000 listings, but only 40,000 sales. Again, that was, okay, maybe that's a bit an outlier, but it's basically the same listings, but almost 20,000 items sold less. So naturally, that means when there is a high supply, but lower people would like to buy, that means that the prices for these items will drop. So this is a strong indication that something happened in the economy. And it means that there is seemingly the same amount of listings, but fewer people who are willing to buy this. That could mean that the players nowadays have more access to, in this instance, tempering alloy. Let's have a look at Dreugh Wax, everyone's favorite. Where is it? Here, this is again EU price. It says 8.8k to 11k. I have once again sorted from July to today. We can just for funsies, right? Let's do it from all the way back in November 2024, where the average was on 10.4k. Wait a second, did I say? Oh, I was at a suggested high in the tempering alloy, I'm sorry. But I compared it with the suggested high again, so it's fine. Average was 3.2k and in July it was 3.8k, something like this. I think it's fine. The argument still stands. With Dreugh Wax, we have a bit of an interesting graph. If we look at June 2025, I don't really know why it, you guys can probably tell me in the comments why that is. But let's have a look at July once again. This time I'm taking the average. So on July 2nd, we had an average of almost 12,000 gold. That's what I said in the intro. And today we have 9.7k. So that's a loss of 2.3k, which is like 25%, just quick maths. And that's dramatic, and as a matter of fact. Once again, let's have a look here at July and today in terms of availability. So we had in July 2nd, we had 84,000 and 73,000 sales. So that's very close together, right? And that's usually that means prices will stay stable, in my understanding. You can see here, like there was a listing surge, and that also meant that the sales went down a little bit. So that makes sense, right? And this year, this is probably like, I think there was probably a few days where the servers were unavailable. So don't be confused about that. But this is just an outlier here. So if we look at today, right, we have listings, items, 88.6k. What did we have in July 2nd? 84. So more or less the same, right? But the sales went down from 73,000 to 48,000. And that's interesting, right? Because it is the same thing that we see with tempering alloy before. Now, does this prove that surveys are at fault? Well, technically, no. You have to remember the difference between causality and correlation. Correlation basically means A happens at the same time B happens. And causality is because A happened, B happens. So an example for this would be in summer, more people buy ice cream and the chance to get skin cancer is increased. So that's a correlation, because more ice cream sales does not lead to more skin cancer, right? But a causality would be you cut carrots, you cut your finger, and now you have an injury. So you cutting the carrots and cut yourself with the knife causes the injury. It's a causality, right? So just to make that clear. Now, I know I'm being very technical, but the evidence we have right here is very strong. In terms of, in regards of that the surveys are at fault. Now, if we have a look at the furnishing materials, and why is that interesting? Why is it interesting that we have a look at the furnishing materials? Well, easy. Surveys don't drop them. Surveys don't drop furnishing materials. That's very important, because if surveys are at fault for the economy crash right now, that would mean that furnishing materials are not affected by that. So let's have a look if that is true. As we can see, I also sorted this from November 2024 to today. And as you can see, the prices have dropped as well. However, not as much. So let's have a look here at July again. So on July 2nd, the average for mundane rune was 227. And today we have a 205. That means there is a decrease of roughly 10%. That is way less than what we have seen in the surveys, which was between 15 and 25%. But why did furnishing materials drop too? Well, now we come to the last argument that I would like to present you, and that is the numbers for the people who are playing. Because, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, it's looking really, really bad right now. I have sorted this graph by September 2024 to September 2025, and we are currently in the lowest ESO has had players actively playing since at least 5 years. At least when we go all the way back, I guess in 2016 we had 7K, and look at this. It says that's December 2025. We don't even have December 2025. Whatever. We have to make that a little smaller here. Like this, we can see the last number is 11,000. That is horrible. That is horrible. And that is not a good trend. So naturally that means when lesser people are playing, then there's less demand. And that means, well, less things get sold. So here's the thing. Why does it matter that the prices now crashed? Because you might think, hey, deflation is great. Now all the people who don't have as much gold as like Lamer has, or even the big whales, I'm not even a whale, right? I have 35 million, but some people have 100 million and more. And that's the thing, right? That's important because the gold that is already within this economy, within these players with these whales, leads to the fact that those people can still purchase basically everything, and the people who have less gold are not necessarily able, right? So we need gold sinks, basically. But that's something for another video. Let me know what you think about the current events in ESO and what you think about the current market. Do you think my or our, it's our, assumption that it is because of the surveys and in part because of the low player numbers? So let me know in the comments what you think about that. And if you don't want to miss the next video where I will try to go into some suggestions I have ZeniMax to fix this whole debacle right now, because really it hurts the farmers and the crafters the most, right? This is bad news for everyone, because essentially it doesn't make gold making harder, it just makes it grindier, right? So keep that in mind. So yeah, subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss that video. And like this one if you enjoyed my analysis here. And with that, I hope you have a great day. I hope you have an awesome day. You take care of yourself and I see you next time. Bye-bye. Oh yeah, sorry, by the way, I said I was gonna talk about NA2. I just wanted to show you that this is not just a EU thing, an EU thing. The same thing is basically true for NA as well, as you can see here. Just to make that clear, it's not just the EU guys who are screwed over right now. You from NA are as well.